Translating self judgments and inner demands. When we communicate with ourselves on a regular basis through inner judgment, blame, and demand, it's not surprising that our self concept gives into feeling more like a chair than a human being. A basic premise of NVC is that whenever we imply that someone is wrong or bad, what we are really saying is that he or she is not acting in harmony with our needs. If the person we are judging happens to be ourselves, what we are saying is, I myself am not behaving in harmony with my own needs. I am convinced that if we learn to evaluate ourselves in terms of whether and how well our needs are being fulfilled, we are much more likely to learn from the evaluation. Our challenge then, when we are doing something that is not enriching life, is to evaluate ourselves moment by moment in a way that inspires change, both in the direction of where we would like to go and out of self-respect and compassion for ourselves, rather than out of self-hatred, guilt, or shame. Self-judgments, like all judgments, are tragic expressions of unmet needs. NVC mourning. After a lifetime of schooling and socialization, it is probably too late for most of us to train our minds to think purely in terms of what we need and value from moment to moment. However, just as we have learned to translate judgments when conversing with others, we often train ourselves to recognize judgmental self talk and to immediately focus our attention on the underlying needs. For example, if we find ourselves reacting reproachfully to something we did, look, you just messed up again, we can quickly stop and ask ourselves what unmet need of mine is being expressed through this moralistic judgment. When we do connect to the need, and there may be several layers of needs, we will notice a remarkable shift in our bodies. Instead of shame, guilt, or depression, we likely feel when criticizing ourselves for having messed up again. We will experience any number of feelings, whether it's sadness, frustration, disappointment, fear, grief, or some other feeling. We have been endowed by nature with these feelings for a purpose. They mobilize us to purpose and fulfill what we need or value. The impact of these feelings on our spirit and bodies is substantially different from the disconnection that is brought on by guilt, shame, and depression. NVC mourning. Connecting with the feelings and unmet needs stimulated by past actions we now regret. Mourning in NVC is the process of fully connecting with the unmet needs and the feelings that are generated when we have been less than perfect. It is an experience of regret, but regret that helps us learn from what we have done without blaming or hating ourselves. We see how our behavior can counter to our own needs and values, and when we open ourselves to feelings that arise out of awareness. When our consciousness is focused on what we need, we are naturally stimulated towards creative possibilities for how to get that need met. In contrast, the moralistic judgments we use when blaming ourselves tend to obscure such possibilities and to perpetuate a state of self-punishment.